Whether we monarchist Brits like to admit it or not, the President of the United States is the single most important person in the world, commanding the world's mightiest military and holding the purse strings of its biggest economy. The President could end Israel's war in Gaza with a phone call or decide if Ukraine gets the backing it needs to beat Putin. At least that's the general idea. But the current Commander-in-Chief is 81, seemingly going on 181 after a lifetime of distinguished public service as a pragmatic politician and, in my view, a thoroughly decent human being. President Biden looks increasingly unfit for service. And with the president in visible decline, his re-election campaign is, well, transitioning. You might say its pronouns are changing before our very eyes. The two most important women in President Biden's life have been sent out to jumpstart the 2024 race. Wildly unpopular VP Kamala Harris said this.
We've got 10 months to go until the election. And increasingly, and you've seen it even just this week, we are all starting to narrow in on what this election will mean. Yeah. And it's going to be the choice between what is about respecting our democracy, what is about competence, versus chaos.
Well, the Vice President is right. Competence is crucially important. But her own boss has trouble getting up the stairs and can't seem to find a way off a stage. His frequent verbal and physical stumbles are the subject of both comedy and concern. Most people responded with laughter and derision, for example, when First Lady Jill Biden said this about him.
I see Joe every day. I see him out, traveling around this country. I see his vigor. I see his energy.
To those who say I can't vote for Joe Biden, he's too old. What do you say?
I say his age is an asset.
Energy and vigour. Not quite what I'm seeing. You can make a plausible case for the wise old statesman with a firm hand on the tiller, but campaigning on Biden's vigour may well fast-track Donald Trump, who does have a lot of vigour, to the White House. Now, at 77, Trump's no spring chicken himself, but with his diet-defying swagger and showmanship, most people on his side seem to be believing him when he says things like this.
I feel like I'm about 35 years old. I actually feel better now than I did 30 years ago. Tell me, is that crazy? I feel better now. And I think cognitively I'm better than I was 20 years ago. I don't know why.
That is a slightly more debatable subject, Mr. Trump, but a whopping 77% of Americans, both Republican and Democrats, believe that Biden is simply too old to run the country. Almost 70% think he's mismanaged the crisis at the southern border. Just 13% say they're financially better off on his watch. At this stage of his term, he's the least popular US president in recorded history. And this stuff matters. US politics is almost hysterically polarised to the rest of us outside America, but most voters are in fact ready to be persuaded. White working-class voters ditched the Democrats to propel Trump to office in 2016. Now more and more Hispanic and black voters are shifting Republican too. Biden says he's the only man who's ever beaten Trump, and that's true. But right now, he may be the only one who can lose to Trump in November. Well, I'm joined by my super PAC here in the studio in New York, co-host of The Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God, host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin, and the Democrat strategist and Fox News contributor, Jessica Tarlov, who I could hear her lips pursing as I read that monologue.
That
I could feel them pursing.
I appreciate, though, I saw you tempered it a bit. Whoever put it in the prompter was harsher than you were.
I could feel the pursing. I was reining back in real time. Let me start with you, Jessica, because I like Joe Biden personally. Yeah. I think he's got a lot of very admirable qualities as a human being, and his own story. The fact he lost his wife and a baby when he was just a senator. He then lost another son. Anyone that can do that and still do the job he's doing will always have my admiration. But there is no doubt he is in real trouble here. Is there any doubt? I mean, can you paint a picture that isn't as grim as the one I painted?
Oh, I definitely can do that. And I've been preparing for 3.5 minutes to get the chance. I'm not going to start by denying that the age factor is massive in all of this. And I think that people's concerns as well about Kamala Harris and her readiness to take over informs that. If there was a hugely popular vice president kind of waiting in the wings, I think things might feel a bit different for people. But 81 is 81. There are some 81-year-olds. We all watch Warren Buffett, right?
Mick Jagger is 80.
Yes.
Nearly 81.
He would have a different kind of agenda for the country. But yes, he does.
Might be quite a popular one.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
I wouldn't hate it. But there is a problem going on right now with media coverage of the Biden presidency, and there are problems with the Biden campaign.
What are the problems?
So I'll start with media coverage. Everybody knows now that you want to print stories that get clicks, and negative stories are the ones that do it. Even people who are huge supporters of the president focus on all the polls that are negative. Most people wouldn't know that if you went to the Real Clear Politics homepage and clicked on polls, the average has Joe Biden down just 1 percentage point to Trump. You would think that he was getting trounced. You'd look at swing state polls, and you'd see that in a lot of the swing states, like Pennsylvania, for instance, which is going to be a huge deal, he's up massively. We only talked about the fact that he was down in one Michigan poll last week. In terms of the economic news, the Wall Street Journal, our very own Wall Street Journal here at News Corp, had a hugely optimistic set of editorials out there. 62% of Americans think the next year, so 2024 election year, is going to be better for them. When are they going to go and vote? In November. That's a lot of time for this economic recovery to really settle in for people. But no one wants to talk about that. It's not popular. It's not good clickbait. The second part about the campaign, and this is where I think the Obama folks who have been perhaps too publicly critical, I think, of the Biden campaign, their ground game is not visible to folks. They don't feel like they're there in Nevada, in Arizona, in Georgia, in these states that we desperately need to win. And they are working on that. And I think that the president himself needs to be more visible. If I was working in the White House, I would have him out there all the time. I understand you might be risking a stumble.
I wouldn't. I'd do what they did with him last time. I'd keep him in a dungeon. I mean, Dave, look, here's the thing. I think the problem is not, it's not his age. I think that Joe Biden's problem is the clear senility that's going with his age. Like I said, I met Mick Jagger last summer, absolutely bursting with the vim and vigour that Jill wants us to believe she sees in Joe.
Look, Piers, do any of us sitting at this table or anyone watching this think that he could run one shift at McDonald's? And I don't mean that as a shot for someone that works at McDonald's.
Well, that's what a lot of senior citizens do, though.
But I don't think he could. I think a lot of senior citizens could, because I don't think it's an age thing. I agree with you. It's a cognitive.
Dame Joan Collins at the Emmys stole the show.
Yes.
She's 90 years old. Good friend of mine. She looks about 50, and she has the mental acuity of a 50-year-old. She has vim and vigour. So Jill Biden is right to say it's about vim and vigour, but her husband doesn't exude it.
Well, look, let's put it this way. You opened by saying something about ailing Joe Biden, and I thought, I haven't looked at my phone in 20 minutes. Did something else happen?
It's a general ailing.
It's ailing. Yes, we all know it. The wandering off when they get him off the plane and the confusion. He literally on camera what was it, 2 years ago, said, let's go, Brandon. Like, something is not right. We all know it. And I would say respectfully, in terms of the polls and everything, people don't vote on what really matters. We vote on what we can feel, right? And I think because of that, people are going, Donald Trump, he seems back, there's energy there, and there's just no energy with Biden, and nobody likes Kamala. That's
but Trump has lost every election except 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a loser.
And, right to the point, the Democrats decided to finish him off with 91 criminal charges and thought this will do him. He's down, he's wounded, and we'll get him. And it's had the complete opposite effect. He has used that to play the martyr, the victim. It has fueled a resurgent Trump. And you cannot deny, I mean, I've seen people try to downplay what happened to Iowa. But if that had been Joe Biden who'd done that at Iowa, you'd be saying, this is unbelievable. It's a landslide. It's amazing. He's killing them, right? Trump is back. And I think will definitely be the nominee, regardless, unless there's some extraordinary twist of events. He's exuding the air of someone on a mission. He's got vim and vigour. And whether you love him or hate him, and it's equal doses with Trump, you've got to say, Trump v. Biden in November, I could see Trump winning that.
Is there anything about Iowa that makes you say maybe Republicans should pivot and go to somebody like a Nikki Haley, maybe? Like when you see that she picks up, a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents, do you think that they're doing themselves a disservice by maybe not getting behind her?
Possibly.
Because the GOP is going to fall in line, and she's somebody who seems like they can pick up votes from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, but you yourself made news by talking about the vim and vigour claim by Jill Biden, didn't you? I mean, you're not...
I don't see the vim and...
You're not...
vim and vigour or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I had a great time on your Breakfast Club show yesterday, and it was really enlightening conversation we had. But, it's not that like you said, are you telling people to vote Trump? No. It's not for me to tell people how to vote in this country. And I've been very critical of Trump in the last, since certainly overall the stolen election nonsense, the January 6th thing. I wasn't buying into any of that. And in a way, I felt that was disqualifying. But we are where we are. It didn't disqualify him. He could actually go to prison and still be president of the United States, constitutionally. So we're into completely uncharted territory. All I do feel is the more the Democrats have tried to kill him off, particularly with all these criminal charges, the more that even Republicans that don't like him have gone, you know what, it is a witch hunt. The Liberals are trying to nail this guy. He's one of us. We're going to back him. And so it's been self-defeating. A bit like the Russian collusion thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the interesting thing is if you're going to use language like, this is going to be the end of democracy as we know it, then there needs to be a sense of urgency. Like you said, when is the ground game going to start? Why is the ground game just starting now if it's going to be, the end of democracy? And I think that's what scares people, too. If we see the clear and, to me anyway, the clear and present danger that could be a second Trump presidency, is the Biden-Harris ticket a winnable ticket? I'm a person who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, so I don't think it's anything wrong with asking that question.
Do you think it's a winnable ticket?
I don't know. When I look at the polls, I don't think so. I think that a 60-plus-year-old...
No incumbent president with this poll rating that Biden's currently at in the low 30s has ever been re-elected.
Yeah, when I look at it, I don't think so. You never know. You can say it's 50-50, but I think a 60-plus-year-old Joe Biden, with the things he's done as far as the infrastructure bill, even the student loan forgiveness, the way the economy is now, I think a 60-something-year-old Joe Biden. He also said
to you on your show, which again made headlines. You make a lot of headlines, Charlamagne. I'm jealous. But he said, if you're black and you don't vote for me, you're not black. He meant it as a joke. But what did you think when he said that? Was that a sense of entitlement, a bit of arrogance about the African-American vote?
I think that, he has too many black friends around him, and they made him feel comfortable enough to make that joke. I feel like he probably had a bunch of black people around him who have said that exact language, because when they say that, they're saying that, hey, if you vote for Trump, you're literally voting, against your own interests as a black person. And I think he's heard that a bunch of times, so he thought that would have been a nice little...
Dave, let me ask you a specific thing, Dave, about this, right? So Trump, this is where I have a problem with Trump. Every time I sort of, he makes me laugh, right? He just does. When he said that thing on the eve of Iowa, that even if it kills you, come out and vote it, you've got to laugh. And actually watching
people leader of the free world.
But watching po-faced liberals lose their minds when he does that stuff makes me chuckle, right? I see myself as pretty down the middle, but I think he's funny and he can make people laugh. But when he says this, I don't laugh, right? He said the President of the United States on Truth Social yesterday, the President of the United States must have full immunity, without which it would be impossible for him to properly function. Any mistake, even if well-intended, would be met with almost certain indictment by the opposing party at term end. For even events that cross the line must fall under total immunity. So I tweeted, so if President Biden orders the immediate assassination of you, Donald Trump, that's okay, is it? That's covered.
What you're explaining is the true magic of Donald Trump, whether you love his policies or not. Because on one hand, you're going, well, there are certain lines when he pokes fun at the
liberals. But he means this.
No. So your line now is, he put it in quotes, crosses the line.
No, I can tell when he's laughing and joking.
So you think when he says cross the line, what he meant was, I can take out Joe Biden.
No, that was me suggesting that that's where you take the argument.
But what do you think he means?
I think what he means
would kill one of his political opponents or get them killed if he could.
No, I think he's actually, as always with Trump, it's self-interest. He wants to basically make sure he can't be prosecuted.
He means Jack Smith, go home.
Yeah.
That's what he means.
Yeah,
and if the corollary is my political opponent could kill someone, he then wants to talk about 2016 when we all ran around and said, he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and his supporters wouldn't care.
By this new criteria, he could do that and get away with it.
Right. Well, I think there are some legal questions as per what a president is allowed to get away with and not be prosecuted after. But I'm pretty sure murder is not one of them, like outright murder.
We don't know that.
He would like it to be. He would like anything that crosses the line to fall under total immunity.
The man has open adulation for Xi Jinping,
That's right.
for Kim Jong Un.
That's right.
He's a wannabe dictator, and I've been at Fox News my entire media career. I do not fancy myself an MSNBC-type person who wants to lose their mind about those things. But that is very serious to have someone who was the leader of the free world and is running to be it again, to believe that these people who are anathema to democracy are doing it right.